Welcome to Fix-It Pioneer Support, here to ensure you stay Fix-It compliant and production efficient by answering your questions. Today's question is from Pioneer the 11382. They ask, how do you transition into decentralized factories from starter bases? Well, I hit a wall with the complexity involved and have to supply every factory with each item while balancing. I'm seeking a modular approach. Do I build a dedicated factory with a resource node? Yeah, this is an issue every player faces, and I've got some real specific thoughts on this. But first, please like and subscribe. Failure to subscribe may result in reduced efficiency, increased spaghetti, and worst of all, disappointing Wilbur. And if you want to really support this channel, you can also get all my maps and blueprints and more at my Patreon at patreon.com/pioneer support. Yeah, so the short answer to your question is the game will basically force you to do a little bit of both. Have a little central factory in the beginning because you can't run around so much, and later on branching out with supply lines in between. And that's basically going to be dictated by a couple things: space, geography, and necessity of different materials. So here's a starter base. You can see I'm making all the basic components that you would make early game, but you can already see it's kind of getting a little crowded in here. Like even if I started to put one factory down here, there wouldn't be enough room. So that led me to the second base. So you see I kind of found a place on the map where I knew I could expand to for a while. A lot of flat space out there and a lot of flat space back there. I got another plateau up here, and I got all this space behind me. And so what I did was, when I moved my base, I took all those items that I was making in my other base, my original base over there, and I kind of just belted them in here just to get them in. And I basically sunk them because I decided to make everything here locally. But you could just use this and put it into storage bins. So this second base, if you look at it, is just passively making all of the different items that you're going to need early game. Some of it's a little bit replicating what we had in the other base, but I also knew that this was the start of the base, not the end where we would be eventually. By the way, signs are really useful. Unlock those early, get that sink running, put stuff into that sink to get those coupons. Yeah, so at this point I'm like, I've expanded a little bit, but not terrible. This is literally maybe a few hundred yards away from where we are right there. The biggest change comes once you need to get out of those biomass burners and into coal. So coal is probably going to be your first major expansion. I think most of the starting areas, the coal is fairly far away, or water is fairly far away, or both are fairly far away. In this case for me, coal was pretty far away, and since my base started down here in the green in the fields, and you can see there's quite the distance between my base and where coal is. I think there's some other coal over here somewhere, but because of the water aspect here, I decided to make it. And also there's a lot of room to expand and make my coal factory bigger later on, which I did. I ended up basically filling this entire area with water pumps, and then above it putting coal power plants. So this is going to be the first time you're really going to have a foray into expanding. Luckily, the only thing you really need to do is run a power cable, right? So, you're going to get to sort of see the countryside a little bit and run that cable. That's pretty simple, but it is your first, foray into a massive expansion. Nice thing about doing this too is once you get coal started like this and you sort of have a base line for coal, you can start expanding on this coal power plant as you need more water. Because you can see that belt there. It is barely moving. It's stopping a lot, which means there's extra production available for coal. And if you look over there, there's another coal node that hasn't been used, and there's also underneath that boulder there another coal node. So this is ripe for expansion for power for a good long time. So, but the other thing that happens is not only do you have to expand for things like power, but you also have to expand for things like materials. One of those is nitrogen. It is not close to anything. It's literally in the top left of the map. Even if you start in this area of the map, it's going to be a little bit of a run for you. So what do? Well, because nitrogen is so important for so many things, this is when I decided to start my rail network. Not only because it's very important, but because I'm going to be making a lot of materials using nitrogen. So I want to have a robust supply line. Now, if you notice here, I literally only started with one station. Later on, this became 6 to fuel 6 to fill rather 6 rail cars. But this was the start of my rail network. This goes all the way back to my starting location, and this pays dividends over time because if you notice, it's close to bauxite right there. It's close to a lot of other resources that I haven't exploited yet. I can also get more quartz crystal if I like. There's also some more deuterium. There's all kinds of things that I can tap into this rail network fairly easily to get back to my central base. So yeah, that's a satellite kind of a situation that I really like to do, and it really just comes when you have a resource really, really far away. Now that being said, if you literally wanted to run a belt from here back to your base, that's fine too. And you could also have nothing connecting it, right? So you could be the transport line, you running and jumping and hypertubing back and forth. That's perfectly valid. It's just for me, saving time is a big part of this. Like I don't see a lot of value in running back and forth when I can set up some kind of an infrastructure to connect everything together and have everything centralized when it comes to all my materials. By the way, use blueprints, right? This is a blueprint. These are all blueprints that are connected together. It makes creating these large structures like this a lot easier and a lot faster. And they look a little better too, at least I like to think so. So after this kind of an expansion, then you get into the situation where you're getting close to probably having maxed out your coal. So then you got a choice. Then you can either go fuel or nuclear. I went fuel for a little while, and then I went to nuclear. So in going to nuclear, you have to really belt a lot of stuff in, fly a lot of stuff in, or rail a lot of stuff in, or a little bit of both, or a little bit of all rather. This is sort of how the game works. You talk about you're going from the simplest setup, which is everything in the same place, to a little bit more complex where you have most of the things in the same place, maybe like 1 or 2 items that aren't in the same place, to running large supply lines all over the map. And that culminates in this idea, right? So this is sort of a culmination of all that. I have rail coming in here with things that we need. I have drones coming in on the other side over here. And I also have things belted in. So it really takes all 3 of those. Now in theory I could also have vehicles in here, but you see there's some silica coming in, there's the uranium coming in, and we're spitting out waste. And here are the drones bringing in the other items. Now the last thing you were asking about is how do you balance all this? I always go with the idea that balancing is kind of like, to me balancing means that everything has what it needs when it needs it, not having every chain in the production, every item in the production chain making exactly the next thing it needs, so that machines don't turn on and off. I always try to overbuild everything. Like if I'm building an iron plate factory and I know I need like 1,000 plates per minute or whatever now, I'll build it to 2 and then expect to expand that later on. So I'll build it in a place where there is a lot of room to make it. As long as you keep those kinds of things in mind, like just give yourself a lot of space, put in the infrastructure so you know that you can expand on it later, then you're gonna have those balance issues kind of pop up less and less. But you will have you're not gonna have a perfect power grid, that's for sure. But that's probably not the goal either. The goal is to make stuff, right? You can see here I got choppiness all over the place. So I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, please ask them in the comments. And look, hey, I would love it if you would subscribe and help Wilbur out a little bit. And if you like these maps and you want to see more, I have 5 years worth of maps, blueprints, and more at patreon.com/pioneer support.